Alright, cool. What's going on, motherfuckers? Back at this once again. Uh, Figure I'll address this off the bat. Yeah, my hair it ain't twisted no more. Uh, I'm taking her into the shop and I'm getting her trimmed in a couple days because it's pretty much time and I've been going in the same shop since I was like 3. So I figured I'd go back to picking it out to get all the twists and stuff out so they would have less to deal with when I come in. But it's my hair when it's picked out. It's not a full pick job because I was kind of just whatever about it. And this is the pick that I have to use on it. It's pretty damn long. It's pretty damn long. Like I can't afford to play no games. I have a shorter one around here somewhere that I was using for a little bit, but then it got so long that didn't work anymore. So my uncle pawned this one off on me, and it works way better. But enough about the change to my hair game. Let's get to addressing the topic. So, among the many things I've kind of been thinking about lately, one thing that it's kind of always been on my mind, and it's always bothered me because in our society it's such a prevalent thing. It's subtle, and no one addresses it directly, but everybody seems to think it's so important. Is just the concept of fitting in, and just kind of like I don't know, the whole idea of having to do things to blend in with a crowd of people or to not be looked at weird. You have to kind of avoid doing certain things in some situations and sometimes it's one thing when there's things that just aren't appropriate for situations like I don't know, swearing around your grandparents or something, you avoid that because you're like, unless they establish a dynamic themselves of it's okay, you can do this because I'm going to do it around you, and they're that laid back, typically you don't swear around your grandparents. Like even if I was given permission by my grandma to swear around her, I wouldn't do it because it's just one of those kinds of things. But it's another thing entirely when I'm in like third grade and I'm wearing my pair of probably black shoes back then because I realized my mom realized at one point if I had shoes with white on them, they would get dirty real quick because I didn't care. So she was like, "You're gonna start wearing black shoes now." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I was probably walking around with some black shoes that weren't even any kind of brand or anything, and kids would look at me and be like, "Why are you wearing those shoes? Don't you want to wear the cool shoes?" And I'd be like, "Not really. I don't fucking care what you guys are wearing. It doesn't make any significant change to my life if I'm wearing the same shoes as the rest of these people that I'm not gonna know in a decade. Like, it didn't matter to me then. I didn't see the long term. Well, I kind of did. It's hard for me to remember my mindset from back then, but it was just kind of one of those things for me of just like this. So you want me to wear shoes like yours that everyone else is wearing so I can be cool and so I can fit in. If you guys are placing value on shoes, I don't want to be friends with you to begin with. I could care less what I'm wearing. I could care less what you're wearing. There, I, the clothes you're wearing has no value to me whatsoever. Your personality and your character and the real person that you actually are, that's what matters to me. That's how I felt back then, and it's still how I feel now. Only now it's a little bit different because sometimes it's a thing of it's a bit more of an annoying dynamic because I get it from a range of age groups, and one of the prominent ones is you're too young or you're too old. It's either too young to be doing this or you're too old to still be doing this. And on that front, it's just kind of about who you really are. And I still could care less what other people think about some of the things that I'm into. Like every once in a while, because I'm a total nerd, I build my small collection of swords. I have like, let me think, 6 right now, because I just bought one at Comic Con earlier this year. And people are like, "Why do you collect swords? Aren't you too old to collect swords?" And I look at them and I'm like, because I think they're cool, and because what you think about what I like doesn't fucking matter. Like, it's one of those things where if I try to process it sort of logically, it never makes sense. It will never make sense to me why people feel the need to do things because people are gonna think I'm weird if I do this. It's like, who cares what they're gonna fucking think? If it's a part of who you are and you're comfortable doing it, then do it and be about it. People who will latch onto you for those things will come along naturally. These people don't fucking matter. They have no bearing on your future whatsoever. The only thing that really matters is possibly that can make a significant impact is high school and fitting in high school. And it makes me laugh to think about it, actually, because now all the people who were popular in high school or whatever, who tried to fit in, who tried really hard to fit in, we're now getting into the real world. Some of us are paying bills, some of us are going into college, some of us are doing both, whatever the range is. But I'd like to think a lot of those people are very quickly realizing that their popularity doesn't mean anything in the real world. Because it's one of those things where it's like, you were the head honcho when you were a senior, but now you're a freshman in college, or you are a young person around a bunch of older people who have done things and have been successful and are already at the top and at the peak of their game. And you're just starting out. And you're no big deal. It's one of those massive blows to your ego that I think comes hard for some people. I mean, I haven't exactly had it. I've more had ego building, and now I kind of keep it even. But a decent amount of people I went to high school with, and just people who graduate high school in general, I'd like to think hit a threshold of like, oh, I don't really fucking matter in the grand scheme here. To myself, yes. To the rest of the world, no. I'm just another one of many. Just another one of many. But I guess just it blows my mind to think about just the concept of fitting in sometimes, and just popularity, wearing the best clothes, having the baddest girl on your arm and everything. Like, a bunch of that type of shit has never meant anything to me. Because I look for substance in a lot of things that relate to my life. And like, the close friends I have are close friends because we get along well and we can talk about things. We share similar ideals and moral beliefs. Not because we wore the same shoes together in one class and that's the foundation of our friendship. I would not want a friendship that is founded on the fucking clothing I'm wearing or any stupid shit like that. That doesn't make any sense to me. I see no legitimate value in that. So, for a lot of things, people are like, "Oh, aren't you too old to be doing that now?" It's like, do I look like I care what the fuck you think about what I'm doing? I don't. I've obviously communicated to you that I'm staying in my own lane and I'm following my own path. So why should what you think matters to me? Or I think my grandma, I had like a stroke or something for 2 seconds. I don't even know what that was. But it's just one of those things that still irks me, because I see a lot of people, even in the adult world, doing it. When you're a kid, it's kind of expected because everybody's a little uncomfortable and people just want to find their own little niche in their own place. And a decent amount of people will see popular kids all happy and joking and they'll be like, I want to be with them. Whereas I was more in the position of, I'm going to be me until I meet other people who like to be them, and then we're going to be friends. And that always worked out for me. And I walked a very weird position too, because I was cool with virtually anybody I ran into throughout school. So it was a very different kind of angle for me, because I was never bullied or anything, because people very quickly, I'd like to think, learned that there was no point, because they couldn't affect me at all. People would try to make fun of me when I was a kid, and I think I was in 5th grade once, and someone told me, probably a popular girl too, I think I remember. She told me, "You're so weird." And I just kind of looked at her and I was like, I've known that since birth. Do you have something else you want to tell me? It's just, I've always been very much about staying in your own lane, being yourself, following your passions, being true to who you are. And when you start compromising that, you lose track of you. And then there is a point where it reaches a pinnacle and you kind of realize you're not yourself anymore. And I've never wanted to be there. I've been there and I don't want to be back there again. And a lot of people kind of let themselves get there because they need to fit in, or they need to be comfortable around people who don't make any difference in their life whatsoever. Like, I don't know. Fitting in is one of those things that we all kind of find our little niches and our own places that we sort of quote unquote belong, the places where we can be the most comfortable. And I operate differently because I've tried to be able to kind of cross the streams in that aspect, or I try to kind of be able to be comfortable pretty much anywhere. So my niche is kind of just with people who operate the same way I do, and we just like to be ourselves, and we know we're somewhat aware of who we are, and we're comfortable in our own skin. Those are the kind of people that I vibe with the best out of everybody that I've run into. People who try to fit in or try really hard to impress other people or any of that stuff, we typically don't get along because they value things that I have no value for. Like, one guy I was friends with my senior year of high school, one day we got to talking about sports for 2 seconds. And his brother played football, and he didn't really play many sports, but he kind of understood them, and he understood them so he could fit in. And we had a conversation one day. And it was one of the weirdest conversations I've ever had in my life. Because he was just kind of like, well, no, it's because everybody else is really into it and everything. Wouldn't you want to be able to enjoy something everybody else enjoys because then you can all have fun together? And I was like, well, sure, but the only problem is that I don't fucking care. I was like, that is the only problem with sports is that I have never given a shit. I've never been able to care. Like, since I was a little kid, like, football, I was like, I could play football, or I could go play Sonic, or no, not play football. I could watch or play. One of the two. Fight. I could watch or play football, or I could go play Sonic. I could go play a Spider-Man game. I could go watch a really cool cartoon, like Teen Titans or something. I was always like, these things interest me way more than this boring real life stuff. I mean, now it's kind of at a level where for me, I know other people are into it and I don't rag on it or anything. It just doesn't grab my interest. Like, I'm still at a level where I'm kind of like, eh. Oh, we got a touchdown. Cool. You guys are excited. And that's awesome. That's great. You guys are all having fun together and everything. That's cool. But I don't really care. I don't really care. And the only sport I really think I would play, like, legitimately would probably be golf. Just because it's so kind of casual and laid back, and I can play with friends and we can just talk about stuff, and it's not hyper competitive, and it's just casual. Like, that's kind of what I'm into, just kind of casual things. But no, just a lot of this stuff about fitting in, it carries over into adulthood, and it is freaky when you start to see it from adults, because it's just kind of like, you have your own things you have to worry about, but you still claim you can't do that because you're an adult. Really, we still do that at your age. People still fucking do that. I don't. This is the world I'm walking into. It's like the moment I kind of realized that people still as adults try to fit in like we did when we were younger, I kind of reeled a little bit. I was like, this is, these are some of the people that I live among. This is a type of person that I'm going to be encountering for the rest of my life. And all I could really think was, it's fucking sad. Like, it makes me a little sad for people. Because purely the fact that your self-validation comes from how other people view you, and you can't view yourself on your own terms and really understand yourself on your own level, that's sad. Because for the rest of your life, you're going to be trying to live up to standards that are going to be constantly changing. People are never going to be happy with just you if you go to other people for happiness like that. And I feel like fitting in ties into that dynamic a little bit of people need to view me in this way so I can feel this way about myself. And I've always been like, this is me, everybody else is here, they can do them, I'm gonna do me. I don't care what any of them think of me, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna be myself, and as long as I'm myself, I'm gonna be happy. That's my angle on it. Fitting in is a very insecure reaction to kind of just the real world and some of the small challenges that come from it. Like being confronted by kids at school about liking what you like. It becomes a thing of, are you going to reject those things so you can look cool to these people? Or are you going to stay true to those things because you enjoy them and you don't want to let what other people think of you affect your self-esteem, your self-worth, or how you view yourself? Which is also kind of structured by you anyway, but enough on that. I'm gonna go off on a full different tangent if I start talking about all that stuff. But no, just fitting in and different things like that, it's fucking dumb. Like, it's one of those topics where I kind of hate to be so blunt about it, but I feel there's no other way to really explain it. It's dumb. It's one of those human reactions that I'll never be able to understand. I like this thing and other people don't like it, and they just said words to me about it, so I'm gonna act like I don't like it instead, so they'll think I'm cool and I can be comfortable somewhere. It's like, no. You do you, and if people don't like who you are, fuck them. You'll find people who like you eventually. I learned that lesson growing up. I had, like, people now are kind of like, oh man, you're so cool. And I tell people sometimes, I'm like, you don't understand. Some people in school thought I was really fucking weird. Like, I would hear it not on a regular basis, but often enough to where I knew it happened and it made me laugh every time. Because every time I would hear that someone was talking shit or someone had some things to say, or I could faintly hear someone talking in the corner of a room, it was always just kind of like, you need to talk me down to play yourself up so you can feel good about you. That sucks. I'm just gonna sit here and do what I do. And it's gonna frustrate you so much, which is the saddest part about it, is that some people, I could tell, it would frustrate them because they would keep trying to dig and they would never get anything. They would never get anywhere. Because I was always just like, I don't give a shit what you think. Why does your opinion matter? You are a dude I share one class with who I don't even like in the first place. Why does your opinion of me matter? It fucking doesn't. I don't know, man. It's one of those things. Kind of just stay in your own lane. Just do what you do what makes you happiest, and you'll find people to vibe with based on that. This whole stupid, you need to grow up, you need to do this and do that, all of that stuff. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. There is no logical reason for you to do those things unless it's a situation of you need to grow up and get a job and people phrase it to you that way, and that you're in a situation where you really do have to have a job now and you need to move on to that next stage of your life at whatever point you're at. Something like that you have to handle, that's a different thing. But if it's just people saying shit to you, who cares? Is it really that big of a deal? 2 people don't like you. You're gonna run into fuck tons of people in your life, but like a small group of girls doesn't like you. I don't give a shit. It's just one of those things, because I see it so often that it bothers me regularly. Like, it's sometimes moments when I'm talking to people where there's a small pause after they say something, like I'm supposed to be hurt by what they said, or I'm supposed to react a certain way or something, and I'm always just like, well, that's weird. They took a job and it's like they want me to be angry or something. I could care less. I don't care what you think. Like, I've had situations where people have said things to me and people have been like, why'd you let him say that shit to you? Aren't you gonna say something back? Are you gonna take that? And I look at them and I'm like, take what? Words? The words don't mean shit to me. I could care less what this motherfucker thinks of me. I know who I am and I know where I'm going. That's what matters. And that's kind of where the whole fitting in thing breaks for me. Is self-understanding and your own self-worth and everything is really what's important. Other people's opinions of you, there are always going to be people who hate you. There are always going to be people who just straight up do not like you. And I had to learn that real early on because I was like a black kid. So it was like, some people aren't going to like you, baby, just because you're black. And it's like, well, why? Well, there's a lot of reasons for it, but just there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. There's a lot of things wrong with people. And those people are going to teach those things to their kids, and they're going to learn those things, and that's going to be reality to them. And when you encroach upon the reality that way, it bothers them. Some people just aren't going to like you for any number of reasons. Not just because you're black, but because you're different, because you're happy, because whatever the case is. Like, it's even kind of funny, too, because one of my closest friends that I met back in elementary school, he told me, because that was around the time I had my first major move, when I met one of my old buddies, and eventually me, him, and a bunch of my other friends kind of ended up becoming a small little clique of just nerdy kids who didn't give a fuck. My buddy, he told me that when he first met me and my friend that I made, he said that he was jealous of our friendship. And he was just kind of like, yeah, you guys were just you just kind of did you, and you didn't seem to care what other people thought. And I was jealous of that because none of my friends were like that. And now we're practically brothers, I'd like to think. But it was just funny to hear that from him one day because it kind of validates the way I feel about fitting in. It's just people being insecure about themselves. And as soon as you start valuing yourself a little bit, what other people think of you, it's going to matter to you less and less over time. Until eventually, you're in a position where you do what you do, you smile, and there could be a whole crowd of like 1 million people sitting there laughing at you. And you're not going to fucking care. It's just yet another thing to think about.